Uh, Andy made an interesting comment. He said quite often, if it's hot, don't water. He said many of the plants will do much better dry in extreme heat than wet. There's in the text sheets they kept saying, when in doubt, don't water. You know, and that was because when you read these text sheets, there's if you go in and say how to grow tolumnia, you're going to get page after page of discussion and etc. And they're contradicting each other. And I largely could see that from one area something works, other area doesn't. So really, what you're doing is you're observing your plant, and you're going to have to decide how often you're going to water. Well, these things will shrivel, and then immediately you need to increase water. And one guy suggested, okay, if it's on a mount and it's starting to shrivel, take it and put it in a clay pot. What you can do with a clay pot is wet the pot, put the plant in, and it'll be more moisture and more humidity. There are all kinds. They were talking about all kinds of tricks, like do not hose the orchids down. Water them just a little bit. When you fertilize, water first, then fertilize. Fertilizer, you're going to use a balanced fertilizer like 20-20-20. It doesn't have to be 20-20-20. There are a lot of different balanced ones. You're going to use half or fourth strength, because where they're getting, in the wild, they're in trees, they're getting little droppings from birds and rotting vegetation. That's how it's very mild fertilizer. You're going to also, when you fertilize, you want to fertilize one time, and then maybe water once or twice, and then fertilize. So you're constantly flushing the salts from these plants. Now, these little guys are plagued with especially that white scale, although I've seen other kinds of scale on them. Mealybug is also a problem. One pesticide that you do not want to use is Saigon. It's very poisonous to these guys. It'll kill them right now. And by the way, these plants, when they get in trouble, generally speaking, they'll be dead in 3 or 4 days. So, I mean, you don't have a lot of time. The moment you see something wrong, you've got to get on it.
We're going to kill it.
Actually, on the pesticides, they said that a wettable powder, systemic, orthene. There are others that aren't real expensive, and then there's Safari, which is $650 now, I think, per gallon. But
these are little. We don't need a gallon.
no, you don't need a gallon. You don't need a teaspoon. Then potting of these plants, of course, the best way to grow these is on a plaque. They seem to do better, but I was talking with Peter Lynn. Peter has some of these that he brought back from Hawaii. Hawaii seems to have the largest flowers. And he puts them in plain potting mix in a pot. And the ones that are in the pots seem to get much bigger than the ones on the mound. But the naturalness of this is that they are, in the wild, they are small plants. They're not big plants. But Peter's found a way to really enlarge them.
Alex Naston grows them that way, puts them in a little net pot, and then in very fine bark, and then in
The one thing you have to do though, when you pot, is to make sure that that mix is gonna drain really well. Another trick, which I saw in Hawaii many years ago, they put them in just pure charcoal. In a little clay pot, and it's kind of like a puzzle. You have to kind of work it so that it's solid, because if you hit it with the water and it's not, out comes your pot, out comes your plant. Yeah. But they work very well on mounts, and you can mount them on just about anything you can think of. I've seen them even on pieces of charcoal, like mesquite charcoal that you can get. They break that in long strips.
Wow.
They love it.
charcoal filters out the chemicals and things too, doesn't it?
A couple of hints. When you have them and they've bloomed and then they drop all their flowers, don't cut the spike off. It's, I have one over here. Well, anyway, what this has done is the main spike was here, and there's a little spike that's developed, and it bloomed again.
Huh.
And they don't necessarily do it immediately. It might be several months later. This is the typical plant that we got for $2.
Wow, that's nice.
See the little mount on the back?
Yeah. Huh.
So if you want to remount it, you have to take it apart, because down in the center, it's moved out. You have dead material.
Ah.
And you also have a lot of roots that are dead. You want to get rid of those. But they're very tough to pull apart. Another thing about the bloom spikes, if you notice on the side here, you can look at this later, there's a keiki. And I've seen, so we went to, the first time I saw these in the wild was on a little island near St. Martin. And it was called St. Eustatia. St. Eustatia has what they call a key at one end. It's an extinct volcano. In the crater were big trees. On the outside edge were lots of scrub trees. And here was a little equiton that had thrown about a 3-foot spike. It had flowered and dropped, and then a keiki developed. That grew up, threw out another 3-foot spike, and then went down through the forest for about 100 feet. And you saw them all over the place. Everything was up a little bit taller than I am. It was like somebody had come in and manicured all those trees, and the manicures are called goats. So everything below within reach was gone. All the ecotons were up in the branches, doing just fine. Called people and they would decline to see us. We were tourists. And this man's name was David I.E. He owned City Milk. And we told him that we couldn't, get in his nursery. And I think it was about 2 hours later, people started calling us. And we went to a lady by the name of Susan Ferreira. She was from Colombia. She lived on the North Shore. And she was hybridizing equitons. And there were some other fellows, but they were all working one thing or another, and they told me what they were doing. And they were working, then I think Moya was probably passed away. He used 4 different species, and that was the basis for all their hybridization. But what they were trying to do is get dollar-sized flowers in 2 years.
Wow.
Well, they're the dollar-sized flowers. You can find them in Hawaii. Very expensive. And it's 2.5 years. They didn't quite make 2 years.
Silver dollar or paper? Silver dollar or paper?
Okay,
You know I had to say that.
would anybody like to volunteer to learn how to mount a lamp that hasn't mounted one?
Oh, I didn't know.
Put the Equiton on top of it. So I really don't think, you know, you can do it either way. You can also, this is New Zealand moss. But we also can use sphagnum moss. Now, if you have trouble, if you're very close to the water, then I would use sphagnum because it won't hold as much water.
Right.
So I mean, it's, a lot of this is going to be you, your observations, watching, make sure it doesn't shrivel, make sure that it doesn't, if they start to rot, they start losing leaves. Growing twigs. I put it on the outside as well because so I don't want to the other side. So it's got three different. You don't want to put a wrap because this is where your little plant's going to come from, right at the base.
So you put it below the growth.
Well, if you go through, like you can go between these growths, but just be sure you get it down in where the roots are.
Okay, now you said not New Zealand moss?
Well, in your case, no. Use sphagnum moss. But most of you that are inland, New Zealand moss is fine.
That's what I use for anything.
Or you can try it, but don't use a lot.
Yeah, I
use
love
less.
it.
Do we want the plastic to stay on there?
No, you can pull that off. At merely holding your tag.
Oh, that's holding the tag. Oh, okay.
Now, what you want to do, see these are out. You want to put it in that way. Because these are, here's your new growths. Yeah, no, wait a minute. We want to go there. So that the new growths are out.
We've got more tables over here. Why don't you go? We've got more tables. Yes, we have more.
We need more. Now what I did, I just formed it along here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to wrap around that first. And then we're going to put this on top.
And see it forms a line. So hold down. Feel a little bit of moss here. Then you take this and wrap it around one.
Are we supposed to use the green as our filament?
Well, I would map.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Now we're supposed to have some more.
I stick that thing just like that. Well, I can do quick.
Do we have more lines someplace?
More line?
Yeah, another pieces of line?
Fishing line to tie it. I'm not seeing any.
Is it better to put it in the middle?
Oh, let me look at this box. Yeah. It's going to go up and down. Or it's going to go down. Remember, I start at the bottom if it's going to grow up. And take this moss, and first it's a Japanese, just make a little rope, see? And then look,
now,
then it doesn't fall off
What I
in the
want
water.
you to do is hold that like that.
Can I give it?
Yeah, just like that. That's fine.
Over to another table.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a slip knot. And all as you're doing is going around one strand. And you just make an overhand knot. And I always do it twice so that I can't slip out. You have to be careful though.
Grab some moss over here, enough, right? So we just do like that.
Yeah.
That's right, and then just do that.
See, here's this moss. What you want to do is just make it. It makes a little rope. See?
Move that finger.
I gotta have
She got the motor as a shotgun, so.
See, what I do is I go in angles.
You don't need a whole lot. You just mainly want to protect just right around here.
Now you have to remember where this is. Because you got to tie it off. There it is.
Here's scissors.
I've got a cutter in my pocket, but I'm when tying.
I think if you should cut that and give everyone a piece. That's the way Get her off now.
I take quite a bit.
No, it's her now. She's getting away with it.
Oh no, that's okay. You can have that.
No, go ahead.
Well, you do what I do. I'm okay.
Okay, Rick. Let's see.
Okay, how do I wrap it out?
Then you should wipe it. See.
Number one.
You can take the green plastic off later. That's your name.
I see. Sweet. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Here, Rick.
Okay, now first thing you have to do is you get